Okay.
Awesome. I'm just pulling up her questions real quick.
I have so many things open. I have that outline and all the reading and my paper that I wrote and Laura's thing she wrote. Hopefully I can navigate everything like I need to.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Fine.
What?
Okay, so get here where, oh, let me go to the outline. This is what I'm talking about. I don't know. I actually may not have, I may have opened up Laura's thing and closed the outline. So just a second, I'm getting back to the outline here.
Oh, it's fine. I'm looking up the outline too. Because it tells you at the bottom of the page, right?
Tells you at the bottom of the page.
Of like the, I'll figure it out. Sorry, okay. I'm like tired.
Well, it's in the instructions above the discussion board for our group discussion. It's in the instructions. This outline is. So.
Yep, this week's group leader discussion.
So did you find it?
Yep, I found it.
Okay. All right. Well, the first thing, I'm supposed to quickly summarize the case, and what happened is, let me get all the names straight here. Let me get back to that. So Stephen Connor is in charge of hiring a replacement for Peter, who took off because he got another better offer at another firm. And he's an analyst who is a senior level analyst, so he's kind of specialized and difficult to replace. And in the meantime, they have his assistant, his junior analyst, I guess, covering for him. But he is feeling pressured to find a replacement pretty quickly because they have a big deal coming up with a company that they need to have someone who's in the know on. And so he's got, besides the junior analyst, he's got, is it 4 other people that he's interviewing? So he's got 5 options, and he's getting all the background information about them, and he's had 2 interviews with them, and now he has to make a decision. And our write-up was to kind of boil it down to what the qualifications are and the things that are concerns about each of the candidates, and state who we think should be the one that he would choose. One or ones, it said, and tell why we would choose them. So that's pretty much it. So the first question is, says discuss the pros and cons in great depth for all of the candidates. So let's just start out here with, I'm just looking at Laura's discussion that she posted. We'll just start with David Hughes. That's who she has listed first. I'm going to pull up my assignment right next to hers.
David Hughes was the older one, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so actually, you know what? Well, yeah, let's start with David. Rena is actually the one that I started with in my paper because she was the one already there, but we'll start with David. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize him, and I'll just ask if you'll just do the next one, and we can talk about this one both, but I'll go ahead and summarize. So David Hughes works for a company called Spencer's, and he had been ranked an international investor for 15 years, and he has all the qualities that Stephen is looking for that include a really sharp mind. He has a lot of industry knowledge. He's got great interpersonal skills. He's prompt. He's meticulous. He's courteous. But he's a little bit older, and it has been a concern that he may become burnt out because it's a high demand position. He's already been doing it for a lot of years, and it sounds like he's about 50-ish or something. So they're concerned that he might not keep up or want to keep up so much because he's slowed his travel schedule. He also wants a 2-year compensation contract, which isn't common because of the way the market is up and down. And he doesn't really love technology, which is kind of the way the world is going. And so there's just some concerns. and it would be expensive to hire another person, especially since he's so expensive to hire in the first place because he's got a lot of experience. Not that he couldn't do the job, but whether he'd be someone who wouldn't do the job for as long or wouldn't want to be as gung-ho as they maybe need. So
yeah,
what do you have to say about that?
I feel like you'd be good as a trainer. Like if they just expected him to stay on for like a few years, I guess, because he could teach like the junior analysts and other people some of the things that he's learned over the years. But
do you think that would be expensive for them? Because hiring alone is super expensive. Do you feel like they could do it in a way that wouldn't be so expensive for them?
yeah, I feel like he'd be very expensive. Because it was out of the case study. It was the one about
Was
not
it
to
that?
hire stars. Did you read that one?
Uh-huh.
It was talking about like if they switch firms, they at least lose like 20% of their productivity.
For the first, for the first couple of years at least, anyway.
Yeah, and then they're already super high paid, so they'd want as much pay, if not more, provided from the company. So
yeah, if they're going to move, they're going to want a pay raise.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't personally feel like I'm going for the star people just because of that whole article.
Yeah, it said that article. I think it said it was optional reading, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to read this to know what to write. It was like, at least if that was anything real, that was exactly what I kind of based my paper off of. I believe it. They'd done some studies, and it really helped me define how I targeted my paper, my answers.
And I don't really know. I kind of skimmed it, to be honest. But
well,
like it was a lot to read, but like it had really good points in it out of what I did read out of it. And then also on top of that, the main person who was hiring, what was his name again?
Stephen Connor.
Yeah, Stephen was talking to one of his main employees, and he said either to hire a star or a high ranking person or up and comers.
Yeah, was it his boss who said that?
It was either his boss or one of his friends in a different department that worked
and they
with him.
said, I'm sorry, they said what? Because I might have misunderstood you.
To either work with like star people or up and comer people, but not to work with like the side firms.
Yeah, the buy side or the sell side.
Sell side ones.
Yeah, it was a sell side. Yeah. Yep.
So I kind of based it off from that. I don't know.
Well, I really don't think there's any wrong answer as long as we can substantiate what we said. So, it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just, and that's the thing when we get into positions like this, if we ever do with our management, if that ever takes us there, we're going to need to know how to evaluate and make the best choices we can based on the information we have. And there really is no right or wrong. It's just do your research and decide what would work the best in your situation.
Yeah. Overall, I feel like David's just kind of, I wouldn't really hire him. I feel like he's a little bit older.
Yeah.
And then he'll want a lot of pay.
Old for the expense that he would cost the company. I feel like he's just too much, too close to retiring or not wanting to do that kind of a demanding job anymore.
Especially since he wants the 2-year contract. So
yeah. Which is part of the reason why I think he does, is because he knows he's slower and he wants to be secure for a couple more years.
Yeah.
So all right. So let's go on then to Gerald Baum. And will you kind of summarize him?
Let me look at my paper real quick. I think I'm going to I just feel like I had a really simple summary for him. He didn't really seem like too much of a team player, if that makes sense, because the main company's mostly team-based. At one point, he fires like one of his junior analysts, like right in the middle of a big meeting, and he claims it's best to get rid of the problem right at the moment than wait for later. So that didn't seem very professional.
He was also late to the meeting.
What? Sorry.
I believe he was the one who was late to the meeting, to the first meeting.
That might have been true. I don't remember that one.
Yeah. He was the one who was late, 15 minutes late to the restaurant to meet Steven for their first interview, and he didn't apologize.
Oh.
So.
I'm looking at hers real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just doesn't seem like a team player. He does stuff individually and then kind of just takes things into his own hands, it seems like.
And I didn't point that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's one of the ranked twos, right?
Yes, he is ranked. He's highly ranked. I mean, he wasn't as high as the other guy, but he looks to be an up and coming star. He wasn't a full star. I mean, as far as their consideration goes, but I know he was in the II magazine or whatever, ranked somewhere. So, but he does a good job. But you mentioning that team player thing was something that I didn't mention too much in my paper, and I probably should have. But their culture at RSH is very team oriented, and he doesn't seem to be so team oriented, and he's not coming from that background where he's working right now so much. So that could be very difficult for him.
Yeah. And then I just remembered two more things. So he always switched around companies too. It seemed like he was always wanting more pay. And then the first question he asked was about his compensation. So
I know. I was like, how rude.
Yeah.
I was surprised that compensation even came up out of anyone in that very first initial interview, but it did out of most of them. That was one thing they talk about. But in my experience, you don't talk about that. You're just very first one, usually. I mean, it's not one of the first things, but.
Yeah. And I mean, for that kind of business, that might be something because
it might be the business. Yeah.
I feel like they don't want to waste their time if they're not getting the pay they want, if that makes sense.
It's true, especially for something so high profile and a little bit stressful. So, yeah, I can see that. But it was just a surprise, of course, especially from him being like the first thing that he wanted to get out with. So.
I don't even think I considered him even close to being hired on.
I didn't either. I mean, I think that he would do a good job. That's not the issue. It's about what his motivations are and how he works, not really being a good fit for the company.
Yeah.
So he'd be expensive, but he may cause casualties along the way. That's what I said about him.
Yeah, because I mean, he fired his junior right in front of everybody. So
yeah,
as with the other ones.
Yep. Okay. So can we move on to Sonia?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Sorry, I'm switching between pages. I'm jumping around.
I know. There's a lot. I'm jumping around a lot too. There's a lot to see all at once. Okay, so Sonia, she is employed not for a big Wall Street firm, but she's employed by someone kind of firm they call a boutique. So a smaller company. She's been ranked by II magazine as an up-and-comer, which is something that's not generally done while you're working at a smaller company like that. So she's obviously pretty good at what she does. She likes the global market, and she also has a good sales and technical background, and she's a great writer, and she's responsive to her clients, and she's dedicated to her career, and she's prompt, and she shows more interest in the organization and less on compensation at that first meeting. And she's a great communicator. She doesn't have as much desire to travel as often as a lot of other people would, but she compensates for that by having a lot of video conference meetings. And she's good with the customers on the phone. The other concern is that a boutique has not got the kind of pace as a Wall Street firm does. And they're saying Wall Street has like a 10 times faster pace. And so they're concerned about her being able to handle the pressure, having a family, and not being as flexible in her travel schedule. but she has been successful so far where she is. So my thing was her price would be cheap compared to David or Gerald, but can she handle the pressure? Like, is she willing to put in that effort? Was my question for her. So do you have anything else to say about her?
I think when she was asking about compensation, she felt like she was getting really underpaid with her company.
Mm-hmm.
They brought up the topic of it.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised only because she is working at a really kind of in a different playing field. She's not at a Wall Street firm.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it didn't really say how much she is getting paid, but I was just like, yeah, well, you need to work at the big guys to get paid that kind of money, you know?
Yeah. I mean, out of the three that we've talked about so far, she'd be most likely to hire. Because, I mean, she made up with everything, like the travel part with like video conferences and things like that to be able to accommodate the customers.
Well, and she uses technology well and in her favor. And like we're having this group meeting and we don't live close to each other, but we're able to do it. We're able to converse about it, and it's not a problem with technology. So it can be done.
Yeah.
Maintaining meetings and relationships and things like that. In person there are benefits to being in person, but it doesn't all have to be done in person.
Yeah, exactly.
So traveling less would be acceptable, in my opinion, as long as she's willing to do the face-to-face meetings on video calls stuff.
And then she's got the junior also, or the juniors that they could hire to if they need to send somebody and she can't go.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. She would have a junior that would be her assistant that could go in her place on occasion. So
yeah.
All right.
So train them. See. Yep, that's all I got on her for the most part.
Okay. All right. Do you have information on Seth Horkham?
Seth Horkham, he was the one who was contacted through the other headhunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't feel like there's too much background on him because, I mean, he had the headhunter as the backup, but there really wasn't anything too much to know about him besides the first meeting.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't anything for him to look up, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of information on Seth before the interview, except what the headhunter sent over. He wasn't able to talk to someone about him directly, but he did find out that he does a great job, and he's kind of overeager. He's kind of a little bit eager to please and wants to show and prove that he's worth it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's sometimes almost to a fault when people work too hard. It's not good for their personal life, so it comes through in their business life eventually.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's been divorced because he works so much, can't maintain a good, healthy relationship with someone if you're working more than you are spending time with, working too much. There's a balance there. And he's been with the same firm for 15 years, and so Stephen was a little bit concerned about his motives for changing, which to me were kind of explained when he said, I really want to improve my rankings in that magazine, the II magazine, and I don't feel like where I am is going to get it for me because I haven't been getting those rankings, and I feel like I need a different environment to do it, to shine. So I understand. It seems like that's okay, that he's changing. It's okay to change.
Yeah.
But he seemed just a little overeager and like he had to prove himself, and which isn't a huge concern, but he's also kind of expensive. He's been on Wall Street for 15 years or whatever. So
yeah, he even had like a book of references, if I remember right.
Yeah, he handed it to Stephen at that first meeting, and Stephen's like, "That's great, but kind of weird."
I thought it was. He also seems to know a lot of people, but it's weird that Stephen doesn't know him really at all, and neither did anybody else.
Yeah, the fact that his name wasn't out there, that's a good point. That it wasn't, he didn't know anybody who would know him, and it's kind of a small pool that they're dealing with. So that's kind of a concern. Why isn't he out there? Maybe it's just because he's been doing great where he is and that he just didn't have contact. Stephen didn't have contact with that company.
Yeah.
So
Maybe it's just an interchange because I mean he knows people from the power chip companies and stuff like that, and other people they deal with. I don't know. I felt like there just wasn't enough information on that guy. Like he was just kind of like thrown out there, and even the first headhunter hadn't even suggested him. Somebody else did. That was one of his concerns.
Why didn't he come up in the search from the first headhunter? That is another good point. Why didn't he surface then?
Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't feel like there was. Obviously, I mean, in the case studies, they don't always tell you everything, but there just wasn't enough information on him for me to consider to hire him. I guess at least for the pay wise and things.
I agree. Okay, so the last one we need to talk about then is the person who's the junior analyst. Her name is Rena Shea. Do you have a summary on her?
Rena Shea, she worked as the junior for the original person. They put her in as like a filler. So they promoted her temporarily to take over, what the heck was it called?
Take over Peter's job.
Yeah, take over Peter's spot. I forgot what the name of the position was, but
the senior. Well,
as a senior analyst or something like that.
Semiconductor analyst. Is it semiconductor? Is that what it's called?
Something like senior research analyst. That's what it is. Okay. So she was the junior for him, temporarily taking over things. She seemed to be doing all right. I mean, there really wasn't any complaints from anybody besides like maybe she had to ask a couple questions about how to do certain things from other teammates.
But who doesn't when they get thrown into a position unexpectedly?
Yeah, and they all work as a team anyway, so it's supposed to be that way.
Right.
She likes her position she's at now, so she doesn't really want to be replaced, but she knows it's a possibility.
Yeah.
That's one point.
Yeah. So I agree with that. The only person who really didn't want her in that, I don't know about the only person, but the main person who didn't want her there is Steven's boss. He's like, we need huge experience in this position because he's worried about the deal with the company that's coming up. And so he wants the experience, but I also don't see him as someone who knows really what Rena's capable of doing.
Yeah.
Because he's not her direct supervisor. And so I feel like Steven's feeling the pressure and not really allowing himself to consider her fully in that position because he's feeling pressured to not have her there. So I don't feel like he's really put his whole thought and evaluation and the training behind her that I feel like she could do it if she had the right support.
Well, I think even by the end, it says that she's doing like the deal's going through, everything's perfectly fine. Like nothing's really, it's not like she's messing up the deal at all. So
yeah, it's so far, it didn't say that there was any casualties from anything that she'd been doing. And it seemed to be going all right. They just want experience. And I think they probably have the funding to hire someone really, really expensive and really good. But yeah, why, why do that when you have someone there who's willing to do it? But I can also see the lack of experience could potentially be a problem with the deal in the future, in the next few months, which is when it's going to get really hot and heavy. Apparently, they're really needing someone. So while I think that she could do fine, I also think that she needs support. She's definitely going to need some more hand-holding than someone who's seasoned, obviously, because she's only been a junior for 3 years, something, and apparently that's not a lot.
I think it was something like that. I don't remember how many years.
She's been with the company for just over 3 years, and I don't remember. Maybe she was only a junior for 2. Maybe she was doing something else before that. But it's only been a couple of years that she's been training. But she's dedicated, so I feel like with the right mentorship, she could be successful. And their other complaints is that she's not high-powered. Apparently, she's a little reserved, a little shy and apprehensive about certain things. So
I think she even admitted that. She said that she was a little bit introverted, if I remember right. So
that's another concern for her, but nothing that she can't get experience on and learn as she goes along. So, all right. So, I mean, I have more thoughts on that, but I think that will come when we are talking about who we would select and where. Yeah. So let's go to, all right. So the pros and cons, we did discuss that. Okay. Now it's who would you hire and why? So we're supposed to, everybody's supposed to just make their decision, which we already have because we wrote our paper about it. So we need to just kind of each of us say who we would hire and why. So do you want to start with that, or do you want me to?
Who would you hire and why? Who did I say? I put in Rena Shea, to be honest, because she's an up and comer. And then at the very beginning, the recruiter had asked his friend about who he should hire, and he said up and comers for the most part because they have a lot of potential and then they have the team behind them. And then another reason is that she's worked for the company for so long, there wouldn't be a learning curve of joining a new company and having to figure out how to work with the team and how the whole dynamics of the whole company works. Like, she already has that down by this point, I hope. After 3 years. I mean, she says that she's a little reserved, but I mean, other than that, there really wasn't anything that seemed bad, I guess, to me. I don't really feel like they gave her enough attention. She seemed like she's doing really well with what she had in the first place. So.
Right. Especially being all of a sudden put into that role. It wasn't anything she knew was coming. So I feel like she was doing well with her, with the position for what she was handed. And I just think it's that she lacked people having faith in her that she could do it. And more than anything. So.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, I would say, like, maybe put Sonia in and then have Rena as a junior and then have them split off eventually. Like, have Rena get some more experience.
Actually, exactly what I proposed. So, did you want to say more about that? Because I can go into mine now because you led perfectly into it.
No, I'll just leave it at that. That's just that's the only way I'd hire. That's it.
Yeah, I feel like I said I would hire. My recommendation would be to hire Sonia Mitha, partly for the reason that you said they recommended hiring up and comers because they're not so set in their ways, and they're doing well. And Sonia is definitely an up and comer. Rena is also good, but if they're concerned about Rena still being too junior to do the job, then hire Sonia, who can mentor Rena. And then in a few years, whenever Rena's, good, done, trained, she would be one that they'd grown and raised up, just like that article was talking about. The other article about growing your own stars instead of hiring from the outside. So Rena would be someone that would have been mentored properly with someone who knows what they're doing. And then eventually Rena could be her own senior analyst over her own area eventually. And then they would have two great analysts. 2 great seniors, and Sonia would be a lot less expensive than those other 3 options, the 3 men who were interviewed. And because
if they could fork out the money, maybe David, just because they know he's going to retire soon, and then they could replace him. I said if they could fork out the money, maybe David, and then have him train Rena, and then he would retire, and then Rena could just take over.
Right.
I mean, if we needed another option, that'd be my only other options I'd think of.
The only concern I would have on that is that David is probably the most expensive of all of them.
Yeah.
So he's expensive to hire. And I learned this in another class. I can't remember what class. It was one of the business management classes, but it was that just hiring people just to get them in the door is expensive, not their salary. Just it costs the company so much money every time there's turnover. If they make more money, the cost goes up. And so I feel like if he's only going to be there a couple of years, if that's the goal, they would want to maybe have him be just a contractor who would come in and just be a trainer contractor, but not a full-time employee, because he costs too much to the company to be on their payroll.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my thought on that. They would, for the amount that they pay to get someone up and going in a new company, especially with the downtime that they usually have after the first, that first 2 years of lower production, that for that expense, that they would really probably not want to do that with someone who, for only a couple of years, but maybe more on a contractor relationship where he just comes in and trains her.
Yeah. I mean, if we had to pick another person, that would just be
right.
The other guys, I'd be like, no.
He's definitely one who could do it. I agree with you, and is a nice, considerate person too. He wasn't a jerk.
Yeah.
Like David was. So yeah, that's what I don't know. I just propose those two women work together and see how it goes. And you propose that Rena go in there and do it. And I agree. I think she could also do it. But I was just going more out of the concern of the boss to kind of keep his fears a little bit lower, get, someone in there who has some more experience. And then eventually he'd have two good and potential stars at his company instead of just the one. Bringing in their own, juniors and assistants, because the other ones kind of knew who they wanted to hire, and Rena was set to be assigned to go to another group and do something. She was going to have some people to report to her, so she was going to be doing, a nice job. But I feel like she has a chance to be in the same position she is as a senior in just a couple of years if she could just stay there, and do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you on the agenda? Can you go to that screen? There's a link to the salary information that we're supposed to look at now.
Agenda.
So if you go on the
salary recruitment of a star salary information.
So you need to look at that now. That's our next thing.
Well, okay, here we go. Huh.
So this tells you how expensive they are. And so now, because we know this information, once we take time to look at it for a couple of minutes, would you change your mind about who you would hire and why?
I don't feel like I would, because I went on the lower end.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same. I feel like I made a budget conscious choice.
Yeah. And I mean, it just made the most sense to just go with that. Because I mean, Gerald and Seth just weren't worth it. And then David was way overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's 5 times more than Rena makes.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like for her little bit of lack of experience, they might be able to deal with it a little bit. Send her to some specialized training or something. I mean, get someone in there to help her that costs you a little bit. I don't know. I feel like but still, even with Sonia and her working together, they're combined the same as what Seth would be.
Which is like, yeah, 2 for 1.
Yeah. So I feel like they could together do a better job than Seth would do alone for the price. So, all right. So should Stephen give Rena a permanent offer or hire outside of the company? That's a question. So I'm assuming that they mean the permanent offer at the position or hire someone else from outside the company for that position. And I think you already said that was who you voted for anyway. And I said, no, give it to Sonia, but have Rena go back to where she was to keep learning and progressing in that role so she can eventually become a senior analyst.
Yeah. I'm still kind of rooting for Rena, but seeing the prices, I'd probably do the other thing.
Yeah. Well, I think Rena's great too. That was my first thought. And then I decided to just change it up a little bit.
I just feel like they just ignored Rena was the problem.
I know. They didn't even interview her to see what her thoughts are on the job. I mean, and I said in my paper, They said they didn't really talk to Rena about any of this or get an interview with her or anything to see what she thinks about it. I assume it's just because they know her and they've had performance reviews or something, but I feel like they should have given her a chance to interview for the job.
Yeah.
Kind of rude the way they keep telling her, well, we'll just let you know when we've decided if we're going to ditch you or you know, whatever. She's hanging on this edge of her seat waiting for them to decide.
Exactly. I don't.
Kind of rude. So yeah, I mean, I think they should definitely keep her and get her somewhere involved in there because she does a good job. And then the next question is, should Steven have let Peter go? And I said no. He should not have ever let him go because he could have warranted the extra pay, the extra salary to keep Peter. But since he's done it, now we have to deal with that. He should have offered more to keep him because it would have been a lot less expensive than hiring a new one.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really feel like it was really a choice to keep Peter or not. I felt like it was just.
It said at the very beginning. It said at the very beginning of the case. I'll go to it real fast here. I can go there fast. I think it's the second paragraph. It says, Steven examined how much money Peter generated for the firm and saw that he could legitimately raise Peter's compensation. Then he devised a backup plan to split Peter's team by encouraging Peter's junior analyst, Rena, to stay at RSH. So instead of Rena going with Peter, she wanted to keep Rena at the company. So he devised this plan. Peter ended up leaving the firm, and Steven promoted Rena to senior analyst, assigning her to cover the power chip and the rest of the semiconductor industry, at least temporarily, while he decided whether to offer the position permanently or hire someone outside. So he could have offered Peter more, but he decided against doing that.
Yeah.
And so he didn't even really put up a fight. Now, he may not have been successful at retaining Peter because who knows what Peter might have had his mindset and he wasn't going to change regardless of what he got offered, but he didn't even try.
Yeah.
And it's causing a big deal, you know, and to offer another 100,000 a year or something or whatever to keep him sounds like a lot to me. To keep him was within, I mean, he said he could raise the compensation and he could have done that. And that would have saved them, I think, a lot of money and stress. So I feel like he should have at least made the offer to try and keep him. Definitely.
Yeah, at the very least, if it was possible. So I agree.
Okay. So should Steven have talked with the recruiter to ask about Seth? So I think what that means is the recruiter called from out of the blue. He did not solicit this. So he didn't have to listen. He didn't have to say, oh, you've got another guy for me. So I guess they're just asking, should he have even let Seth become an option?
I feel like he should have been an option, but I feel like he should have went back to the first headhunter and asked about him and why he wasn't really a candidate in the first place.
That's a good thought. What? Because he kept saying, I don't know who to ask about this guy. I don't know him. And he should have asked the headhunter, the original headhunter, what he knows about him.
Yeah, at least to get his opinion, because there might have been something that was a hang-up why he didn't think he would have been a good fit.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, also, the next question, does the performance at one firm guarantee high performance at another firm?
I don't really feel like it does, just based off from that one article.
Yeah, that one article really, really made it clear that they are not as productive usually. There are certain situations where they are, where they come across and they do all right, but it's rare for them to be transferred over without some loss of productivity. And so no, definitely doesn't, because the politics, the culture, the just getting to know a new system, just everything is more difficult, and it takes a while to get up to speed on that kind of thing. So you're definitely going to lose some productivity in the time, and you may not fit in well. Just personalities clash sometimes, so there's no guarantee. You can you can still be as smart as you were before, but the way things work and operate don't always work the same anymore, and that's a different way to have to do things.
Yeah, and I think it was talking about in the other article, it's a different, like, you have a different set of resources. So different firm, different name, different advertising and things to get you put out there. Yeah, they kind of start over from scratch, if that makes sense, because you're not used to the company.
Yep,
so.
For sure. I also feel like in some ways, when you've been at a place for a long time, yeah, you're good at your job, you do it, and you can almost do it without thinking, but you also get complacent, and so you might not be as productive there if you're just in the same position for a long, long time too. So sometimes it's good to shake it up, but I'm not saying that that means you should switch it up and go to another company, because I don't think you're as productive necessarily. But I'm also saying that sometimes when you're at the same place for over many, many years, that you also may become a little bit less productive over time because you're just complacent with the way things work. You don't push yourself as much. You're comfortable.
That makes sense. I mean, you just kind of could do the minimum of what everybody else does without getting in trouble.
Yeah, sometimes.
Just do the minimum.
Sometimes. Okay, and the last thing that we're supposed to discuss, it's not the last thing. I'm sorry, it's the last in these questions. Then there's a conclusion area, but discuss the types of human capital. So I read this human capital. Do you have that one-page thing pulled up there by chance?
Yep, I pulled it up.
Okay. So I referenced it once in my paper, but I was kind of unclear when I first read it. As I read the information and read through the case study and was able to pick up more about it, I did kind of figure it out, but I wasn't following it super well at first. So we're just supposed to discuss this.
I don't think I really understood this one.
Yeah, it was hard. And I guess what it's saying is that the type of human capital that's at the top can leave and move over to a new company without too much problem, or you can take these skills with you. But as you get more specialized, these skills that they're talking about, these human capital skills that you have, some of them don't go with you. So
okay, this makes sense. I see it now.
So I think it's getting more clear for me, because and that's why talking through with you will really help. See if you agree with what I'm saying, because I'm not sure I have it, but I think it is like general human capital. It's just general management skills, general things that managers should know how to do, that you can take to a new job. It's not specific to a certain company. Does that make sense? So then strategic human capital, it's gained from experience in specific situations, but that situation could arise at any company. So it's going to be about certain markets. It might be in a certain area, but it's not specific to a company. So it's still also portable a lot of the time. Industry human capital is more specific. I think these just get more specific to a certain company as we're going down the line here. So industry human capital, still portable. You can take what you've learned and what you know as far as management skills in a certain area to a new company. And then relationship human capital, I think that talks to the culture and politics of a company, like how you interact with the people there. So how effective you can be as a manager dealing with the certain people that you're working with. And some of the things you learn, skills that you learn from there, are portable, but those relationships aren't portable because they're not going to go with you. So I think that's what it means. It's not as able to be transferred over. And then company specific, obviously just the culture and the things at a company specifically, routines, procedures, other things. You can take some knowledge that you've learned, but a lot of times it won't apply in a new position.
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean,
now it makes sense. Before I was like, what are they talking about? I have no idea.
You talked about it, I was like, oh. Because I mean, the only way that the relationship human capital really worked in that whole case study was when the person hiring was asking other employees about the other companies that they used to work for and if they knew the other people. And I mean, that's the only situation I could think of where it gets brought up.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think it's talking to the fact that when you're hiring new people, you have to remember that these things that they've learned and techniques that they've learned, they're not going to bring everything with them. They're not going to be able to take all of the skills that they have made them successful at the company that they're at to this new company and use them effectively there. They don't all come with them. They have all these 5, types of capital, but not all of it will come with them as experience because the culture is going to be different. Things happen differently in the office. It might be a different industry for them, stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's where they lose some of their effectiveness in getting up to speed because they don't have the same information and atmosphere. So I finally got it. Yay. Good thing we had this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're in the conclusion area. There's a couple of things here, not much. Help group members notice the key concepts from this case by providing a summary of the discussion. And I feel like having that conversation we just did about the capital and transferability, human capital and transferability, really summed it up. Like when you're hiring new people, it's expensive and you really need to watch. That's why you really need to get to know somebody as well as you can. Ask people. He was doing his research. He was calling people that he could. He had 2 interviews with them. He got all the paperwork and read about them. And so getting to know someone as well as you can before so you can make an informed decision, because you know that they got to be really good because they're going to come over and not be as amazing at your company for a little while. They have to get up to speed. You have to realize that they're going to be taking a hit when they first get on there. And also, I also feel like he maybe should have learned that he shouldn't so quickly just let someone go.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me. Like, it seemed like it was just an easy thing that he did, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe that's not really a point, but it said right in there that he had money in the budget that he could have offered him something. So,
and I mean, it was only 100,000 more, right?
I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't remember.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm just thinking of something else.
But I said 100,000 as an example.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that if he had money in the budget, he should have used it at least to try, which we've already discussed. But I think doing your research to hire someone is super important because it's expensive to do it.
Yeah. So. You don't want to hire somebody on and then just regret it later. So.
Right. Exactly. So do you have anything else that you want to say? That's pretty much it.
No, I think we covered it pretty well. That I can think of. Was there any outcomes to this one?
No, I was hoping there was. All we got was the salary information this time.
Oh, that stinks. I was hoping for an outcome.
I know. I like to know the end of the story. I was really, it's one of those stories that it reminds me of those books where there's endings that come later. You get to choose the ending or whatever. And we didn't really get to choose the ending, except we wrote about it, like how would we have done it. But then it was fun to hear what the actual ending was. And I think it would be fun for all these case studies to hear that. And maybe there is one somewhere, I don't know. But it would be fun to hear what the ending actually was so we can, I don't know, talk about our agreement or disagreement with it.
Yeah. Last one was great. So, yeah, that's all I got on it.
All right. Well, thank you for being here tonight. And you're in charge next time, right?
Okay. Yep.
I'm not sure if there is a discussion next week because we don't have them every single week. Most of them we do, though. So I think there is.
We don't have what next week? I'm sorry.
There's not a discussion every single week, but I'm pretty sure there is one next week. I'm going to look real quick. I think we might have a discussion whether or not we have a case study. I don't know, because there's a couple of times here and there that we don't have a case study to do. But I'm looking at week 7 right now.
Lesson 7.
Yeah, we have a gratitude activity self-assessment.
So do we still meet up?
All right, well, I'm looking at the instructions. It says complete at the beginning. Although you are allotted 1 hour. Yeah, it's a discussion. I just think it's not over a case study.
Okay.
It's a different activity that we're doing.
Okay, it's just over those 3 talks.
Yeah, it looks like that. Yep. So it's not a case study, but it's going to go the same as the case study. We read information and we discuss it. So you're on for next week.
Are you doing pretty good with your? I've been looking at your what's it called?
The accountability thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, the accountability project. Is everything going all right?
Yeah. I did have to do a consequence a few days ago. And I hope to never have to do it again. I don't know if you've seen what my consequence is.
I haven't looked at it. I couldn't.
Because it said set something that's really, that you really don't want to have to do, so it'll keep you motivated to not have to do it. So I said I would make a video, because I am very uncomfortable, although this semester I'm getting a lot more comfortable with being on video, but I said I would make a video where I explained why I'm making this video. I just tell what's going on, and then I have to sing with choreography some song, and I did I'm a Little Teapot with the actions. And then I had to post it on Facebook and tag 10 people in it.
Oh.
So
yeah. I don't know.
My really bad consequence. So I had to do that because I stayed up till 1:30 writing my paper last week. I think it was on Tuesday night, writing, because these papers are reading and writing by Tuesday night is hard for me to get done. It's really hard. I don't know.
I just try and pound it out, and I'm just like, what the heck?
I know. My paper was 6 pages. And I wrote that from 8:30 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. or a.m.
Wait, your thing was 8 pages?
Huh?
Your case study was 8 pages?
It was 6 pages, my case study write-up.
I feel like I'm really lazy. Mine was only like 2 or 3 pages.
Well, mine was MLA format, so it was double spaced and blah, blah, blah. But still, it was the longest one of all. But anyway, this was even last week. I'm just saying it's hard for me to get these done. I sometimes get really busy, and I don't realize how much reading there is to do. It takes me a long time to read it. Then you have to write so much to answer all the questions. And anyway. So I stayed up really late. It was like 1:30 in the morning. And I took a nap the next day because I couldn't stay awake anymore because I didn't get enough sleep the night before. And I slept through my time deadline. And why I ever set a time on any of these is beyond me. I will never do that again.
On the updating the goals and following.
Yes. So I slept right through it. And I'm like, dang it. And I even give myself mountain time to do it. So till 1. I mean, because it's noon, whatever, school time. So, but yeah, it was like 1:30 or something when I woke up, and I'm like, dang it.
9's like my bedtime. Unless I really have to do a project or paper or something.
Yeah, I'm sorry to ask you to go so late. It's just my kids are all up, and it's like right after dinner, and everybody's active, and it's so, because I have to be right in the family room, I'm like, it's just so disruptive. But we don't have to do this every week. So tell me no if it's too late next time, just no worries.
Oh, it's all good.
So,
I mean, I feel like my goals for mine is really simple. Sorry if I forget to update my thing and tell you that. I know you've asked
about it. I have to update mine every day, or I have to do a consequence. So mine will be updated, but you didn't set that, so you don't have to.
Mine's like once every 3 days.
Yeah.
That's why I miss your emails sometimes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I am now. I don't know how it's going for you, but I just like to comment on the date. I just stick my cursor on there and hit the comment button and add a comment. And that way it's just a way to check in every single day. I know I've done it. And it's there. So I hope that works for you.
Fine. If I don't answer, it's probably just because I haven't checked my email or something.
Okay. That's fine.
To be honest. But I mean, I've messed up on a couple, but it'll say no on exercising, but that's only because I put that I'd work out 4 times a week. So
You could make that a weekly goal instead of a daily one if you wanted to, and just write yes by it 4 times, down the weekly column if you wanted to. I mean,
oh, that's right.
It might be easier to do it that way since it's not every single day.
Yeah, I can do CrossFit for 3 days out of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like one other exercise. So that's usually what I do. And sometimes I do CrossFit different days. And then I jump around to the Book of Mormon sometimes. So
yeah,
not always.
I started reading the Book of Mormon kind of not at the beginning, but like I think I started in Mosiah, at the beginning of Mosiah, and I'm almost caught up to where we are as a family reading. So I'm like, it's a lot of reading and rereading the same thing because I remember just reading this,
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good for me to do it.
I like it. I mean, I really feel like the project's helped a lot because I wanted to do these things in the first place.
It has helped me a lot in a lot of areas. I haven't been brave enough to add the exercising thing in yet because I want to, but I have just been through a kitchen remodel and a wedding for my son and a lot of things, and I have not had the time in my schedule, and so I'm afraid to commit with this project because I can't change it if it doesn't work for me, because it's been several months since I've had that in my schedule, and with this semester is really tough for me school wise, lots of hours, and so adding that in right now, I mean, I can easily go once or twice a week, and maybe I should just make that be my goal, even though I feel like it's low. I feel like 4 times is what I want to do, but I think with this project I need to shoot low and then build up, change it up, because I can't change it lower for sure.
Well, I mean, even 1 time a week would be an improvement over no times a week, if that makes sense.
Yes. So. Yep. So I don't know if you notice on mine, if you go there, you'll see another tab behind the accountability. And it's just a bunch of goals that I have listed that eventually they would be goals I would eventually add over time, but I can't take them all at once. So
yeah,
I'm pretty good at what I'm doing. Huh?
Like future type goals?
Yeah, just ones that I would consider, like drinking 64 ounces of water a day, exercising 4 times a week. That's eventually things that I might add in to my accountability project. So sheet 10 is what it says. Did I get 7 hours of sleep? Did I complete my homework on time? Which isn't a problem. I always do. So I shouldn't do that one.
These are good. I'm on my phone. I'm looking at it through my phone's on it.
Yeah. So stuff like that I've done before, but doing them all at once is too much. And so I couldn't add everything at once. I'm just, stepping one at a time. So I added the making my bed every day one. You can see where it was all black before.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
Yeah, well, I'm not super good at it. I'm not good at it at all. That's why I needed to make it a goal. So
it's a bad habit when you live by yourself. Like I live by myself, so yeah. I'm just like,
yeah. Well, I probably wouldn't have made it a habit, except my husband appreciates it. He doesn't say anything, but I know he likes it. So
yeah, no, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks like you're doing really good in your goals. I messed up a few times. I kind of need to read more in the Book of Mormon to make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other problem was I was sick for like a week.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's one of the exclusions, if you're sick. I was out of town for that week. So, and that's why I wasn't going to do all the exercising before that trip. It was my goal was to start doing more exercise after that trip. And I did not keep up with anything on that trip. It was too much to even do my homework. Like, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Just get homework done and try and spend time with the 10 people we were traveling with. So.
And I mean, that's understandable. I mean, it's kind of hard as online students. We do travel and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and it was one of the exclusions from the beginning. Any travel or sick or birthdays or whatever, I don't have to do it. And I don't have to do a consequence. So.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I won't keep you. It's been a good conversation.
All right. Yep, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Good night.
Have a good night.